背後チャート2個読み、プルジン、レディー。背後チャート2個読み、プルジン、レディー。ボイス、着地マペット。ベンソレさん、バンされたら、そういうことです。ベンソレさん、ちなみに、ドイツでは、名指しで配信が禁止されていました。URL 省略、以下略。めちゃくちゃ、ゲームードがでかい。な感じなんだろう。どんな感じなんだろう。ストーリーモードから行ってみますか。ニューゲームです。最悪なんだけど。もう最悪なんだけど。大丈夫これ。リンゴが取れたよ。奈良尾と移動方向を変えることができるんですね。ケツから動けるよ。しゃもじ、リンゴ、食べたら穴からシュ出してるんだけど。汚すぎるだろ。違う。シュガー。主が先っぽから出てきたわ。最悪だわ。佐々木くん、下品すぎるだろ、このゲーム。大丈夫これ。大 誰もお前を愛さないじゃないんだよ。なんだ。もう一回やろう。出てきたんだけど。
John woke to the shrill cry of his alarm clock and lay there, rigid, his usual morning condition. But there was another reason John couldn't get out of bed. It was the weight. A weight that had nothing to do with his muscles or fat or sweaty blankets. John was weighed down by a piece of paper. The invitation to his high school reunion. From across the years, the words he'd heard in the schoolyard were still clear. You're a loser. No one will ever love you.
学校に行かなくなったんでしょうか。うるせえ、ザル流し。ティッシュはちゃんとゴミ箱に捨てましょうね。
John threw on an outfit. He didn't feel comfortable wandering around his home naked.
着替えた。壊れた。
John had 3 months until the reunion to turn his life around. First, he needed to clean up.
掃除はしろと。お皿を洗って。
John called it his study, but it was basically for games and porn. Mostly porn.
なんかバイブあるね。最悪。マジで最悪なんなのこのゲーム。大丈夫これバンされない。じじいいるんだけど。おいおいおいおい。いるんだけど、キモい。食ってるぞい。作れない。別に何でも入れるのやめなさいってあなた。別にパイナップル入れるのやめた方がいいよ。痛そう、痛い。刺さった、痛い。殺しに入らないのか。国士さん、色がね、お皿洗って言われてもさ。色が、毛布、健康な色してるよね。皿、洗いたいんだけどさ。どうやったら入るの？あ、割れちゃった。これでいいのかな？もすら洗いませんけど。こっちは外に出たぞ。
John had left his apartment late, but if he caught the express bus, he might make it to work on time. John didn't really like his job, but it had 2 qualities in its favor. 1, he could pay his rent, and 2, Barbara. Currently John's top candidate for his reunion date.
なんだ だなんだ。はい、痛い痛い痛い痛い。たまたまが生まれちゃった。バスどこだ？リン。
John noticed a moderately attractive peen waiting at the stop. He tried to start a conversation and did not get the reaction he'd hoped for. It was probably because he was a minimum wage peen. She could probably sense it.
無視するんじゃね？
The office hummed with cold fluorescent lighting. The air was cold and stale, lifeless. How long had John worked here? Long enough to deserve better.
Fresh Corporation. 開かない。マジで汚いんだけどこのゲーム。大丈夫かな？わわわわ。散らかってるね。ちょっと通れないんですけど。
John was late, but he felt daring. He could sneak into the office through the archives, or he could stroll through the front entrance with enough confidence to bluff his boss. John decided to creep in through the archives. Despite the obvious flaws, John thought it was a good plan and not a recipe for humiliation. There was Carl, napping at work, just like every day for the past month. John envied him. Everyone else was hard at work, grinding away. John might actually get away with this. The boss. He homed in on John, deluging him with spit and buzzwords. The boss ran out of synonyms for John's failings and gave him an ultimatum. Barbara would definitely not be interested in dating John if he was unemployed. He had to get to the quality assurance department.
あまり聞き取れない。これ、音量調整できないのかな？なさそうだな。朝おペニス。のペニス。おペニス。見るからに目にしちゃいけなさそうなボタンあるけど、いや限界だ、押すね。
There might be a faulty dildo just waiting to cost the company millions in lawsuits. John would have to test them all.
ワイブが出てきた。じゃあ試してみるか。
Every atom of John's rectum began to vibrate with the frequencies of pure pleasure. His orifice was a paradise. This vibrator would end all wars. It was good.
キステリア。最低だな。自分の穴に突っ込んで。
That one was good too. The Prostate Pounder X900 series, the most advanced vibrator on the market.
ちょっと色が違うよ。
Sweet mother of no, John, that's too much pleasure for one anus to handle.
刺激が強すぎる。やばいやばいやばいやばい。
John's butt hurt, but his heart was proud. If that vibe had gotten out into the world, it could have injured a customer as badly as it had ravaged his anus.
パイナップル、穴に突っ込んどくか。
The boss arrived and congratulated John on taking one for the team and jumping on the hand grenade, or in this case, putting it up his butt. John was having trouble following the conversation because he was quite high on suppository painkillers. And then the boss said it. Promotion. Finally, the company was recognizing John's hard work and ignoring his minor faults like lack of talent, constant lateness, and flatulence. John's new office smelt like polished wood and success. John's success. Sam dropped by. He'd heard John had been hurt. John said he was fine. He wasn't a softie to complain about a mildly ruptured rectum. Besides, he had a promotion to celebrate. John had met Sam in college during a sports ball game. He'd given him some stiff competition.
だけ。オラ。あ、やばい。よこせ。ボールをよこせ。やっぱそっちのボールではなく、サッカーボールをよこせ。ちょっと決まらないんだけど。いいぞ。ちょっとメド。
They'd started at Flesh Corp product testing together. Nothing builds a friendship like a long day of dildo mounting.
何なんだよこのゲームは。汚い、汚い。
Yes, John had known Sam for a while. But John couldn't hang out with Sam. He had a reunion to prepare for. He was going out with Barbara tonight. He just had to ask her.
この辺だろう。バーバラ、花。痛いって言ってたかみかみ、痛いって。
Everyone was quiet, listening to the presentation. A good moment for John to ask Barbara out.
バーバラ、どれだ。
That's not Barbara, John.
5キロ。
Nope.
誰がバーバラなんだ。
Warmer.
じゃあ、あれか。どいて、どいて。
John was working his way to Barbara. Barbara agreed. Well, she nodded. Sort of. Things were really going John's way. John tried to act as suave as possible and listened to Barbara talk business. He didn't want to blow his chances at long-term love and short-term sex. Barbara began to talk about monthly feedback figures, and John started to zone out, imagining him and Barbara at the reunion, a power couple. She would make his classmates sick with envy, if he could get her to tone down the boring chatter. John's balls were gripped by certainty. Barbara was the perfect date for the reunion. John thought he would impress Barbara by going behind the bar and showing the bartender a thing or two. Despite Barbara's protests that it was unnecessary, John knew that a true gentleman should follow her home. He was excited. There was still 3 months until the reunion, and he'd already landed his perfect date. All he had to do was seal the deal. Barbara thanked John for the evening and politely did not invite him inside for coffee or sex, even though John had dropped some pretty obvious hints he'd be into both, or just the sex. The door slammed on John's hopes. He didn't understand. He'd laughed at all Barbara's pie chart jokes. He'd listened to her boring stories. The blank eyes of the lawn flamingos were witnesses to John's shame. John began the lonely walk home, thoughts tumbling like shoes in a dryer. He had done everything wrong. Barbara had led him on just to humiliate him. John felt empty. How could he get love? He felt like he was missing something, some key to attracting sex. But John was shooting blanks. What did Peens want? Then it hit John out of nowhere. Stuff. He had the success. He just needed to show it off. But where was John going to get all the stuff he wanted? John needed a sign. A new day, a new John. He waited outside his local buttload store for it to open, eager to spend his promotion bonus on stuff. The best way to impress women. There's nothing like a rectum full of money to make a peen feel like a man. Generosity overwhelmed John.
Itay. 魂がこれ取れないじゃん。これ魂が引っかかるんですけど、後ろから行ってみる。
Suddenly it occurred to John that he was going to make a lot of choices, and every one of those choices would tell the world who he was. Did he want cheese or sausage? Delicious. Just so Moorish. Maybe one more. That's enough, John thought. Also delicious. How could John decide? It wasn't. John swallowed the last of the snacks and his self-respect. What would a date think when they sat in John's home? Comfort or style? John went with comfort. Plus, it matched the couch he already had. John weighed up all the differences, but this was a tough choice. Something told John this was the TV for him. John chose the extremely, obviously bad TV. John realized that it was only 2 months and 29 days until the reunion. Time flies. Cactus or rose? Was John a rugged hero or a romantic poet? If John grew his own flowers, then he'd save on romantic gestures in the long run. There was nothing John could take with him to the grave.
骨格、そうなってたんだ。
Except his coffin. Death is inevitable. Style is not. John liked to get his pizza delivered. That way he could see Delilah, the delivery peen. She always made him smile. Delilah thought pineapple on pizza was gross. This way she would never know John's shameful tastes. What bedding would Delilah prefer? John couldn't help wondering. Pizza sheets would show her that John could also deliver in bed. Devoid of any sense of style, buying new clothes would be John's toughest challenge. The silky fabric made John feel like a celebrity. John felt sharp and also like a phony. John decided to go with the outfit. Music, the food of love. Should John go retro sophisticated or just retro? John was sure he could just pirate extra records. Every can was made of metal, pulled from the bones of the earth, wrestled to the surface and smelted in roaring furnaces. All so John could buy peas preserved in salty water and stick them up his butt. John's new purchases were on the way to his apartment. All he had to do was invite a date over. One look at all his stuff and they'd be overwhelmed with sexual desire. John felt proud and also hungry. It gave him an idea. He should invite Delilah over for dinner. John was excited. Delilah was on her way. He just needed to set the mood to romance. John hoped she didn't have allergies. That must be Delilah at the door. The door opened and there was Delilah. John gulped down his nerves and invited her in. John could tell that Delilah was impressed by his stuff. It was time to crank up the mood to seduction. John wanted to offer Delilah wine, but he'd already popped his cork. Delilah started looking as nervous as John felt. He assumed it was because she was shy too. They really were compatible. Of course, at the reunion, he couldn't mention Delilah was a delivery peen. That would be embarrassing. Delilah suddenly headed for the door. And just like that, John was alone again. Delilah hadn't even looked at his stuff. Not even the pizza bedspread. The rejection burned. John felt insignificant. He had everything he wanted. The job, the money, the stuff. So much stuff. He wanted to destroy all of it. Shove it into the abyss. Fuck off, inanimate objects. His stuff didn't matter. He was a shaft in a machine. A lonely piston pumping away like all the others in his rigid place. Nothing special about him. Why should Delilah or Barbara or any other peen be interested in dating him? He was just like everyone else and they could tell. Begone, boxes!
John never liked plants anyway.
John wanted to be special, but he had to face the numb truth. He wasn't. And all the money and stuff he'd ever accumulate wouldn't change that. He thought it would make him unique, but it just made him more like everyone else. He should leave it all, get out of this little town and go on an adventure.
Die, couch.
See the world. He was a boring corporate drone, but he didn't have to be. He could be a traveler, exploring jungles and climbing mountains. He could visit the wonders of the world and get his picture taken. Like Peony Island, the unspoiled paradise he'd seen on TV. That was it. John had to travel. Bags packed, John was ready to put 5,000 miles between him and his problems. He was leaving it all behind. Including his luggage. John was so close, he could almost smell the freedom of the skies. Security sent John back through the detector. John had forgotten he had his nail clippers with him. He'd have to buy another pair soon, or he'd look ridiculous. When the acceleration of takeoff had slackened, John felt a sweet relief. He had left his worries on the runway. He was up in the clouds, on his way to adventure. John's adventure had begun at last, and clearly it was a small world after all, and also a flat one. That was going to piss off the globeheads.
寒い。ここはどこ？エッフェル塔？ビッグベン？ピサのバス塔？南ヨーロッパですね。この辺りはヨーロッパです。これ、穴に刺せばいいのか？エッフェル塔もよしよし。お金なくなっちゃう。ブラ、ロシア。あれ。よしよし。
John was having fun, but something told him he needed to go home. Probably his empty bank account.
お金なくなっちゃった。
John was on his way back home. He was out of money, but money can't buy love. What it can buy are the experiences that had made John a more interesting and developed person, with 100 Butstagram photos to prove it. Finally, everything was going smoothly. John felt good to be back on the familiar ground of home, but he would feel better to be on the familiar mattress of home. That's not John's bag. Not that one either.
これは違うの。
Nope.
似たようなカバンが多すぎる。
That's probably the right one. Close enough anyway.
SS?
Ah yes, John's bag was right where he had left it. Despite John's swell of fresh optimism, traveling was exhausting, and he just really wanted to get home and get some sleep.
Tutorial 始まったよ。ラブレターじゃん。こっちか。
Another nightmare. John's stress about getting a date for the reunion was making him think of her. Harmony. He hadn't seen her in years. Would she be at the reunion? John shook off the thought. He wasn't a child. He was a fully grown penis. John, why is the bathroom barricaded?
Online mode.誰かいるかな? ムを作った人と送って、人はオペニス罪で有罪。
苦いゲームだよ、まったく。やったぜ。落ちたら死んじゃうのか。
オークさん。
なんだこれ。汚い、汚い。次、会場の方が汚いよ。実績解除が汚いよ。ムカデ人間かな。ちょっと食べ放題。4個入らないんですけど。ちょっと私の食えば食うほど長くなるんだな。足になった。置いてかれたら終わりなのか。
オークさん、見た目より音が気持ち悪い。
めちゃめちゃ言ってるよ。任せてください。やったぜ。いやいやいやいやいや。なんか変な衣装ばっかりアンロックされていく。一気にひどい。ちょっとオラオラオラオラ。穴に突っ込むとやったぜ。やるかやられるか。やめろやめろ。やったね。レスリング。 なんだ。ちょっと。なんだあの怪物は。やばい。生き残った。これは何をするゲームなんだ。この食べればいいのか。わからない。なったよ。いえ。なんてひどいゲームだ。結構いろんなものがあるんですね。飛んでる。痛い。なるほど。ちょっと18月ね。めっちゃ長くなってる。買った。ちょっと取れない。自分を食べた。痛い。待って。お先に抱いて。どいて。よし。なんだこれ。アメゲタ。誰なんだよこいつらは。一緒に遊んでくれてるけど女ゲーム遊ぶ人があと2人いるのか。もうちょっと遊ぼうかな。ほぼ全裸じゃないですか。あった。帰らないで。一人になっちゃったんだけど。 誰もお前を愛さない。私も帰る。なるほどね。みんなも72円だから買うといいよ。URL 貼っときますね。今 90% オフで売ってるから。なんと72円。
べんそれさん、URL 省略、以下略。
マイ、ナウ。お昼ご飯食べてきます。
べんそれさん、よし終わり。
みんなも買いましょうね。